Hello everybody, it's Mike here. Welcome back to the evolution of horror. Now you may have noticed that this week, sadly, there is no new vampire episode on the main feed. This is simply due to schedules and availability for both me and my guests. We weren't able to put out the next episode this week, but the vampire series will resume as normal next Friday. I'll be joined by friend of the pod, Jen Handorf, to discuss Hammer horror lesbian vampire classics, The Vampire Lovers and Twins of Evil. But in the meantime, I thought this week, why not take the opportunity to drop a little bonus episode from the EOH Patreon archive. So, as we are currently in the height of summer, it's scorching hot outside. For our American listeners, of course, July 4th is also approaching. So we're all kind of in the holiday mood. I thought I would drop an episode that I recorded last year with my fellow Dream Warriors, Becky Dark and Stevie Webb, about summer slashers. So last year, in I think what was the hottest week of the year, I sat down to record a discussion with Becky and Stevie about Sleepaway Camp and I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Two summer holiday slasher classics, one quintessentially 80s and the other quintessentially 90s. It was such a fun discussion, so you can now listen to that for free. And if you want to hear more from me and Becky and Stevie, there are a whole bunch of other similar episodes on my Patreon feed, where basically Becky, Stevie and I, what we do is we tend to sort of tick off all of the major holiday dates and calendar dates that are covered by slashers. So at Christmas we did Silent Night, Deadly Night. For Valentine's, obviously, we did My Bloody Valentine and Valentine. For Thanksgiving we did Blood Rage. And actually recently, as an exclusive for Becky Dark's Patreon, we recorded in celebration of her 40th birthday discussions of Bloody Birthday and Happy Birthday to Me, two 80s classics that were just bonkers. So if you want to check that one out, that is available exclusively on Becky's Patreon page. You just need to head on over to patreon.com/bunnydark and sign up, and that episode is available right now. But in the meantime, please enjoy our summer slasher special. I sat down in the boiling hot summer of 2021 to discuss the insane Sleepaway Camp and the hilarious I Still Know What You Did Last Summer with Becky and Stevie in spoilerific detail. So grab your sunblock, pour yourself a pina colada and enjoy. A big welcome back to my lovely Dream Warriors, Becky Dark and Stevie Webb. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Oh, you know, how very apt that we're recording this summer special in what feels like the hottest week that has ever been, right? Let me ask you, how do you... Stevie, are you good in hot weather like this?
No.
Are you a summer child, generally?
Well, nice summer weather, yeah, but not zero breeze, absolutely baking. You know, I'm not doing very well. I'm not sleeping. Of course, all I do is complain that it's cold when it's cold, and then when it's hot, I complain that it's too hot. But global warming.
Yeah, what a fucking nightmare. Becky, what about you? How are you in this kind of heat?
Terrible. Really bad. I've always been bad in the heat. I am a summer baby. I was born at the end of June. But I've always really struggled. I'm very... quite a sweaty person.
Clammy.
Very clammy. And yeah, it's like Stevie says, like I love a summer's day, don't get me wrong, but we were saying before we started recording, like the English just aren't built for this. Like our houses are built to keep heat in because it's generally cold in England, and we don't have air conditioning because it's generally cold in England. And so you get these, you know, couple of weeks a year where it's like 30 degrees and everybody just melts. And I just feel like a big melty mess.
We're just not prepared for it.
No, although we should be, because it happens every year, but it always takes me by surprise. Every year it takes me by surprise. I just want to crunch through some autumn leaves in a graveyard with a cool breeze. That's what I want.
Lighting a jack-o'-lantern. We'll get there soon, you know. We'll get there soon. Yeah, it's true. Like, I've been complaining all the way up until this week. Like, where's the summer? What the fuck? And there you go. Be careful what you wish for, I suppose. Like, me and Rihanna last night, before recording this, we're watching I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. And at the moment when the storm happens and they're all just getting rained on in their little thin white shirts and vests, we were like, oh my God, imagine
that looks
being
so
there.
lovely.
Yeah.
I'd have a hook-wielding maniac running after me just as long as I could get wet right now, please.
Oh, and it's just that tropical rain as well.
Oh.
You know, and it's just like, you just know it's washing off all the day's grossness.
Oh, yeah. We can but dream. So there you go. So I'm very excited to discuss these two movies. So I Still Know What You Did Last Summer we'll get to later. But first of all, Sleepaway Camp. This is a movie that I know lots of listeners of the podcast have asked us to cover for a very long time. I've been really excited. I feel like there's going to be quite a lot to discuss with this movie as well, isn't there?
Dear Mom and Dad, I've been at a sleepaway camp for almost 3 weeks. And I'm getting very scared.
Welcome to Sleepaway Camp. Someone is watching you.
Hey, Mama, Reba!
Someone is waiting for you. Someone wants to scare you to death.
In 1975, John Baker is out on the lake with his 2 children, Angela and Peter. A terrible accident takes the lives of John and one of his children. 8 years later, Angela, the sole survivor of the accident, is sent off by her eccentric aunt and guardian to Camp Arawak, a classic American summer camp where children have to take part in activities such as swimming, archery, and molestation. Since the accident, Angela has become introverted and almost mute. When Angela's bullying begins, so do the murders. Covered up by one of the many paedophiles running the camp, the murders come thick and fast and a whodunit style approach, while also brazenly clear who the killer is. Is it actually Angela, or is all not as it appears?
Beautiful.
That was beautiful. That was so good.
So good. What a bonkers film. Becky, let me ask you first, you'd seen this before this week, right? Tell me a little bit about what you think of this movie.
It's just so good. And so... I feel like this film is the film that the word bonkers was invented for. It's just mad. Nobody's wearing a full garment. Everything is half, crop tops and the shortest possible shorts. There is, there's as Stevie suggests, there is just a full paedophile working at this camp.
Yep.
There is a mental auntie. You don't really get any explanation as to why she is like she is. She's just mad. There's a lot of flashbacks, a lot of sort of incredible POV shots of hands coming out and doing stuff. At one point, it looks like somebody's being killed with shadow puppets. It's incredible. I love it so deeply. I can't tell you.
Yeah. Stevie, what about you?
Yeah. Well, as with all films that I revisit after a large amount of time, I always see it very differently with my sort of old jaded adult brain, and it was just so apparent watching it. I rewatched it this morning, just how dark this one is. It doesn't have the gloss that a lot of the camp slashers had in that era, and the elements in it and the tones of it, actual kids being killed, not the counselors, and or this, as Becky said, this paedophile ring that clearly operates on the camp, and the sort of the themes of homosexuality and all this sort of stuff. It's dark, and also I do think the pacing's a bit odd sometimes, but it's also very realistic. You actually see a summer camp being used as a summer camp, which you don't get that often with those slashers. And I think I understand why it causes a lot of controversy, but I think as a standout from the era, it really is in a category of its own.
I completely agree with you. It's just weird, like you guys have said. It's weird, it's bonkers, it's one of the most camp movies ever made, probably, as well. But also, it is a weird mix, because like you say, Stevie, it's very dark. and you are watching children get killed in really brutal ways, but also there's something kind of light and frothy about it at the same time, isn't there? And it's this weird mix of almost seeming like a kid's film at times, like with the way the kids interact with each other and the bullies and stuff.
The bullying and
Yeah, but then also paedophiles and molestation and everything. Like, it is just absolutely bonkers, isn't it? Yeah. Do you think that it's... So, Stevie, I mean, we can probably talk about this as we go, but do you think there are elements of it that have...
aged badly?
Yeah, aged very badly, I suppose, yeah.
I guess. And, you know, they did know at the time, especially with the ending, they knew that was going to raise some eyebrows. Maybe not in the way it is now, actually, because I think, you know, it's getting called out more now than it did then for certain elements of it. But yeah, I mean, yes, of course, it's absolutely problematic, even down to the mockery of, because it's not that explicit, but Angela's dad, he's gay, and you know the guy at the very beginning who's on the deck calling him to come back, that's his partner that we then see later in bed, and just how that is sort of treated by having the kids giggling and it's sort of suggesting that is why she's fucked up and doesn't like intimacy because she saw that because she pushes the boy off her, and when she has that memory. It's definitely problematic, but it was the 80s as well.
Exactly. And that is it. It's such an early 80s slasher, isn't it? Becky, this came after, 3 Friday the 13th
Yeah, I think it's between 2 and 3, isn't it?
Yeah.
Between 3 and 4.
Between 3 and 4. How much of a debt do you think this movie owes to the Friday the 13th movies?
Do you know what? Like, I mean, it does owe a debt to a certain extent, but it doesn't feel so much kind of carbon copy. I think it's got a lot of its own elements, a lot of its own kind of trajectory, I guess, in terms of like the way that the story goes. And the first 3 Friday the 13th are so similar to each other. It's almost like the same film 3 times with like they've just swapped some of the people out. And with this, in some ways, it's quite fitting that it comes between Friday the 13th, 3 and 4, because 4, for me, probably is when it sort of goes in a slightly different direction or tries to do something slightly different. And then this one, you know, with Sleepaway Camp, it obviously owes a debt, but it's just got so many elements that take it beyond just that, like, one crazed madman who also you kind of know who it is. Like, it's got that mystery element to it. As Stevie says, like, it's got a lot more kind of complications to it, I suppose, in terms of like who's who and who's doing what. I mean, it does owe a debt,
isn't it?
It is sleazier.
Yeah.
And I think I agree. I think it's darker.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? But of all the summer camp films, even The Burning, I think we'd had by this point as well, Stevie, right? This definitely feels in a way like it's the most summer camp slasher film. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Because I think really having the kids forefront is. I mean, it has happened a few times, but you know, the mold was normally it was about the counsellors, or it was off season, or the kids hadn't arrived yet, you know. But this is smack bang in the middle of the beginning of the camping season, so it's the actual interaction between these prepubescent preteens that makes it all the more icky, but also all the more effective, I think.
And some incredible kills, right, which we'll get to, I'm sure. But, like, these aren't your typical just, like, being slashed with a machete type kills, right, or beheading. The
practical effects are amazing as well, to be fair. Like, when you cut after the kill, when you then cut to, like, the victim.
Yes.
You know, the guy with the burns, for example, or the guy with the bees. Like, it's all the arrow, all of this stuff. Like, it's solid, like, early 80s kind of slasher practical effects. For me, all of them worked, and there were honestly a couple of times where I was like, oh, like, what? That is grim.
Yeah, and they have their way of doing it, don't they? So because they keep the whodunit style, which we'll talk about, because I don't think that quite works.
No.
They have the whodunit style, and then maybe you see off camera some shadows or some blood splatter, and then you get the after shot of the prosthetic dead body or whatever, and they do that each time, which
And often,
I like. It
often a
works.
really nice like cut to person screaming, person reacting, person screaming, person reacting. Quickly go back to the person screaming. One more shot of the person reacting, finish on the person screaming.
Yeah, it's so good. And it doesn't quite have it's not as accomplished as like a Tom Savini thing where you can actually like an unbroken shot of like a knife going through somebody or anything like that.
No.
It's a
But
little
the
bit
finished
more
product
ropey.
always looks solid.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah. Why don't we start at the beginning? Let me ask you about this insane, I mean, it really sets the tone, doesn't it? The opening scene with the speedboat crash. I like, what is happening? Already, I was like, this is weird. The way it's filmed, at some points, I don't know if you noticed, but sometimes it cut to the close-up of the two kids on the boat, and they were not on a boat or even on water. They were just in front of like a plain studio background and stuff, and other times they were there. It was absolutely hilarious. But Becky, what did you think of this opening scene and this crash?
Well, like you say, I mean, it just sets the tone for the film so perfectly, because so you've got dad and the kids, and that's all kind of sweet and, you know, a little bit sort of, you know, summer camp. It's like outside in America, and they're you know, on a boat, and it's all very wholesome. And then you cut to the people doing the water skiing, and you've got sort of slightly naggy girl wanting to drive the boat, boy being like, no, you can't do that, I'll lose my job, and her sort of going, oh please, and kind of just flirting with him loads, and him in the end thinking with his dick and going, yeah, fine, all right, why not? And then everything just happens so fast.
Also, don't forget that those two kids are in the boat, and then you've also got that other girl just hanging off
on the water, the water skier who is hating every moment of what is happening. She'd be me. That would be me on the water ski going, can we stop now, please? No, I'm not.
Could
anyway.
I say though, you say it all happens so fast. I think completely the opposite. By the time they realise they're heading towards the two kids and the dad in the water in the boat, it's about 2 minutes away, and they're like, oh no, turn the boat. and he does. And the next time you see it, the boat hasn't turned at all, and they've got such a long time.
Holy shit, turn it! Turn the wheel! Give me the wheel!
It's like that moment in Austin Powers where the guy's about to be killed by the bulldozer thing.
The steamroller thing.
Oh my God.
It is. It's so true, because I said that. I was like, surely they could have turned by now, but yeah.
No, because there's the water skier shouting, and then the guy goes, give me the wheel, at which point I think they would have had time. But as he leans over to take the wheel from the girl, he leans on the throttle or whatever.
Yeah.
And that is when this... And then you get that amazing, like, Evel Knievel sort of shot where it, like, boat jumps over the other boat. And then the now bereaved lover on the shore just going, John.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also the little girl who was water skiing just screaming. And they stay on that for a long time. Somebody help
They're
them.
gonna die. They're gonna die. Please help them. They're gonna. And you can hear it. It's on a loop.
It's on
like
a loop.
They've got it on a loop.
Yes,
They're
the same
gonna die.
audio.
Please help them.
Oh my God! Somebody help the people! Dad! We're gonna die or die! Get us out of the boat, please! Oh my God, we need a boat! Oh my God! Somebody help them! Please! Help them!
And then the little life jacket.
Yeah, just
The little mauled life jacket.
Yeah.
just bobs to the surface.
Really reminds me of Pet Sematary, the shoe hitting the road, little Gage's shoe.
How dare you?
Don't, Becky will cry.
I know.
The shoe.
It's great. And the music's all awesome in this opening.
It's
just like
so
sting
dramatic.
after sting after sting. He's like, yank, 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 yank. It doesn't stop.
And then, like, it just gets more and more bonkers from there, because then we go to a few years later,
8
Angela
years.
and Ricky with Aunt Martha. Is that right?
That's correct.
Aunt Martha. I mean, again, like, we've gone into full kind of camp madness.
Pantomime. Like, it's
Yeah.
almost pantomime, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Yeah. What did you think of Martha, Stevie?
Oh, I mean, she's an icon, and she's in one scene in a flashback. This is played by Desiree Gould, and she actually just died this May. She passed away this May, so it's kind of timely that we're honouring her with this. It's such a choice, and apparently. It didn't say she was mad in the script. It said Aunt Martha, something in brackets like very energetic or something like that. And so Desiree actually turned down the part because she said no one says these sort of things like, well, perhaps we shall see, and all these these weird lines. And so she said the only way sort of round trying to make it make sense as an actor with lines that are bizarre is by making her an absolute fruitcake. And so she just went with it, and she steals it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the only, the things that you remember immediately from this film is the final shot and her at the beginning being mental.
It's so true, isn't it? There's something of like whatever happened to Baby Jane level sort of mania and camp in that.
Hurry, sweeties! We don't want to be late for the boss! Goodness, no. No, that wouldn't do at all. Richard, Angela! Oh, here you are.
It is just the most singular performance, singular character. Like, there's just nothing like her anywhere else. And like everything, even down to the costume, like she's got that sort of funny, like tam o' shanter on with matching nail like she's so coordinated and like immaculately dressed, and these poor kids who are like having on the receiving end of this just batshit woman. And she's saying, now there was one thing that I've forgotten. Oh, but no, I made sure I wouldn't forget. So I tied a piece of string to my finger. And then she stands there looking at her finger, and the kids are like,
waiting.
Yeah, go on. She's like looking at the string, and in the end he goes, well, what is it? And she goes, oh, well, I forgot your forms, and runs off and gets the forms. And that's when you find out that she has undertaken the physical for these kids to be able to go to camp. So she's had to sign a form to say that, they're fine to go. And because she's a doctor, apparently, not sure where she got that degree from.
Yes.
But she has signed the forms so that they can go, so they haven't had to go and see a normal doctor.
God, could you imagine going to her for a blood test? Where's the needle? I know I had it here somewhere.
It's like there could have been a whole prequel, couldn't there, of just like a horror movie about them growing up with her. It's terrifying. She's brilliant. You don't see her enough of her. And obviously, this is where we're introduced to Angela as well, and Ricky. Did you guys know the first time you watched it what the twist was, what the deal was with Angela? Yeah, it's kind of, that's the problem with it, isn't it? I mean, like, although I did watch it with Rihanna, who didn't know anything about the film, and she didn't know that was. I mean, she assumed that she was the killer. She's like, it's clearly the weird mute girl, but like wasn't expecting that final shot, which is hilarious. So
I just want to address this. It's so stupid that she's the killer thing, because like, am I wrong in thinking that the whole way through you're half supposed to think it's Ricky?
I guess so, yes.
Like, aren't you not supposed to think it's Ricky?
Yeah, because Ricky is getting so angry on her behalf all the time.
Yeah, because obviously Mel thinks it's Ricky. Yeah. But I wondered if the audience isn't also, like, that's the mystery, right? Is it Angela or Ricky?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think that's true.
Right.
I think that's true. I think it felt obvious to me because they were making it look so much like it was Ricky in a way. And then also you've got the...
I mean, I never thought it was Ricky. I'm just saying that I think that's what the film is trying to do.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's trying to make it look like sort of either or, isn't it?
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's hard because we all know it so well, and we all know that ending so well, I think, as well, when most of us see it for the first time. But
it may be that. And actually, the actor, Jonathan Tiersten, who plays Ricky, they do use him. When you get that silhouetted shot of her coming in before the curling iron, they actually used him in a wig for that. Yeah,
exactly.
Very clearly. Curling iron.
So, and sometimes when you see the hands, sometimes they don't even look like child's hands. They look like adult man hands.
Big man hands, yeah.
And that, apparently, that was Felissa Rose's mum who made that happen, because originally what they were going to use Felissa Rose's hands, which, again, would have been so obvious, but she was fine with her daughter being the killer in a film, but she didn't want her daughter to have to do those things. So she didn't want her to have to shoot a shot where she's like holding a knife and stabbing something, or, you know, at the scene of the thing. So actually that came from Felissa Rose's stage mum being like, no, she can be the killer, but I don't want her hands to be doing the actual actions.
Amazing.
I thought you were going to
She
say...
was 13.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say her mum wanted it to be different hands because otherwise it was just going to make it too obvious. The mum was like,
Right.
She really
reading
cared about the
script,
plot.
like, yeah, just really invested. Like, guys, no, it's going to be too. Can we make a different decision here? What's going on?
It's so true. But they did something similar with Halloween, didn't they? The opening scene of Halloween with the Michael Myers, the little boy in the clown mask. It was actually Deborah Hill. It was Deborah
Hill,
Hill's
yeah.
hand with the knife and everything, which is good.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe we should just quickly, while we're talking about Felissa Rose as well, what a icon, right, as well. And she doesn't get too much to do in this, but she's great, isn't she? And she's become a bit of a horror sort of hero now, I think, hasn't she? You know?
Oh, absolutely. She's a full-on icon, anti-hero. And she does return in the 4th film, Return to Sleepaway Camp. She's back. Which is, I haven't actually seen that one because there are 5 of them, and I've only seen the first 2. But I think she's great in this because I think when he was auditioning girls, the main thing he wanted to do was audition how they looked when they were eating a candy bar but staring deadly ahead with that stare. So that's what he did in the auditions, gave them candy bars and made them stare. But it's really good. Like when someone's directly bullying her from a foot away and there's nothing behind her eyes.
It's so good.
It's like, this kid is twisted. It's great.
And she kind of embodies the way that, like we've talked about already, the film kind of awkwardly lingers on shots for longer than it should do. And it's the same with her, where she's just like... And there are so many shots of her just looking and not moving for so... And it feels like it holds it for so long as well. It's brilliant.
But she's a good choice because she's got these huge dark eyes.
Yeah.
Almost like I don't know, like Bambi, like sort of these huge like doe eyes, and that does give her this, like, as she's sort of, as you say, as she's like sat there just being like horrifically bullied by these mean children, and she's just looking at them with these wide eyes like a rabbit in the headlights. It gives her such an air of innocence, and like I think she's great. Like she's great in it. What a choice.
Considering she doesn't really say much and it is just a lot of looking, and like you say, there's a real good mix of innocence with something really sinister potentially as well, and it's so good. And I genuinely feel for her as well, especially the sweet moments between her and Paul and everything as well. I'm always like, oh guys,
before he starts getting handsy,
before he turns into a bit of a lad at one point.
No, but in real life offset, Felissa Rose and the boy Jonathan, who played Ricky, her cousin, they had a thing going, which I think, but she was 13 and he was 17. Is that all right? I don't know.
Maybe in 1983?
I don't know. Anyway, whatever turns you on.
Let me ask you about these incredible supporting characters then that we meet when we arrive at camp. So we've got Judy, we've got Meg, M-E-G, Meg, we've got Mel... We've got little Paul. What do we think of some of these other supporting cast in the camp, Becky?
I love them. I love them all.
They're all amazing, aren't they?
Judy's a personal favourite. I'm actually sporting her pink Judy t-shirt.
So jealous, yeah.
She is like a Disney villain. Like the way she delivers her lines, she is just absolutely mental. So, oh, Angela, well, I can't believe you could possibly be going over there with a boy. It's like, what is wrong with you? She's like absolutely up to like 13 from the moment she's on screen.
Aren't they a little old for you?
Don't you know girls mature before boys?
That's bullshit and you know it.
Ricky, I don't have time for your nonsense right now.
She's very much sold as this, well, she was with Ricky the year before, they were going steady. And now she's like matured over the summer. And so she's not interested in these kids anymore. And has apparently just like morphed into like Maleficent or somebody. Like it is just the oddest thing, but I love it so much. And I would also like to pay tribute to all of the boys' outfit, because you've got some of the camp counselors who are just wearing like just the shorts that just leave nothing to the imagination at
I mean,
all. It's just
who's
like,
that one
Ronnie.
guy, Ronnie, where you can literally see his junk completely.
The outline of his penis, yes, you can.
Yeah.
Also, one of the kindest men on camp. Like, he's just so... I wonder if it's a certain freedom that he gets from the short shorts. Like, it just keeps his mind, clear and ready to listen to... Like, he's the ultimate counsellor.
Yeah.
Just like the shortest shorts and the nicest man. But then you've got like a couple of the stoners who are, again, wearing just like these cut off... Like, I mean... What is stopping men looking like this in 2021, guys? Please,
right?
Can we bring it back, please?
Especially in this heat, I'm all for it. To be honest, let's do it. As little clothing as possible. Yeah, he's amazing, isn't he? As well, because like in a film filled with really sleazy, leery people, he's quite wholesome, and it's just again, it's just a really funny, interesting choice. Stevie, what about you? Any faves out of this cast of characters?
I think they're all great. I do, as Becky mentioned though. So Judy has gone off Ricky because she's matured or started puberty, and I wonder if that storyline came in after they cast a 38-year-old to play Judy, as opposed to the 12-year-olds that they'd cast for everyone else. That was one hell of a summer growth. But
the age gaps between all these kids, and it's so hard to work out with some of them. It's like, are they a counsellor? Are they just a kid that looks like twice the age of some of the other kids? It's hilarious.
Well, that's the mental thing, isn't it, about summer camps, is because, you do have the adults, but they're not that involved. They're over in the office, probably getting drunk or whatever. And you have kids looking after kids. Yeah. And it's the most crazy idea that you have sort of 14, 15-year-olds looking after 12-year-olds. And they are the boss, and they make the rules, and they've got to enforce the discipline. It's just crazy. Of course, everyone's going to die.
Becky, I was thinking, because we recently talked together about Fear Street 1978, right? And this really, I mean, obviously, this is taking so much from Sleepaway Camp, I think, isn't it? Like, it's... I always thought in my head Friday the 13th, and it was taking quite a lot from Friday the 13th, but maybe even more Sleepaway Camp in a way.
It's funny. It was when I rewatched it for this, when I rewatched Sleepaway Camp for this, I was like, I feel like Mike and I maybe missed a trick by not mentioning this when we were talking about Fear Street, like literally a couple of weeks ago, because the parallels between that and this, and then between that and Friday the 13th, it's got much more in common. Like this whole thing about the kids, one of the things bullies. We were talking about with that, the bullies, and the fact that the film just really doesn't shy away from brutally murdering children. So I mean, it definitely owes a debt.
It really does. Have you had a chance to see that yet, Stevie, by the way? 1978.
Yes, I have.
What did you think?
I enjoy your podcast episodes more than the actual film.
Well, that's good.
But I think they're fine. Oh, I'm just going back to Judy. I think I just have to give a shout out to my favourite bullying line of hers, which is when she says to Angela, she's a carpenter's dream, flat as a board and needs a screw.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting. But also then, obviously, the way my brain works, I went off going, well, I don't know if it's a carpenter's dream. Yeah, they work with wood and they're good at it, but I don't feel like carpenters see a piece of wood and go, oh, God, I'd love to put my spirit on level on that. It's so flat. Oh, I'd love to put a bit of metal through it. It's not carpenter's dream.
The dream. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
It's a good bit of shade to throw, though. I do love it.
It's so good. It's so good. And just like, again, the delivery, like...
Yes, the facial expression.
She's crazy.
Yeah, she's crazy.
It's like Martha, isn't it? It's like this film takes place like not in the real world, almost, like with how heightened and insane it is, And what about Mel, the guy that runs the camp as well, who looks like he belongs in like The Godfather or something? I don't know.
Or jail. I think he belongs in jail.
And he's not even the paedophile character. Or maybe I don't know how old that...
he is as well.
Right, but...
He is as well, because he and Meg clearly have something going on.
This baffles me, this thing with Meg.
Yeah.
Because it's like, Meg's got this night off, and the first thing she does is go... Because like, she must be like, what, 17? 16, 17?
I don't know.
Yeah,
she's one of the counsellors, though, right?
Yeah, she is one of the counsellors.
But she's a child.
But she's a kid.
Yeah.
And the way she goes home and she's like, hey, remember that dinner you once mentioned? Like, how about tonight? And his face, he's like, wait, what?
Yeah. He's as surprised as anyone.
All his Christmases have come at once. He is as surprised as anybody. And he's like, oh, yeah, all right then. But then actually, like, obviously, I'm not condoning this sort of behaviour because the age gap is considerable. But when he then comes looking for her later, and he's all looks all spiffy, like he's kind of put all his best clothes on and stuff, and he's like looking for her, and I'm just a bit like, oh, Mel. And then
he's doused in Old Spice.
Oh, absolutely, like drowned in it. But then when he finds her, his reaction when he then goes and finds her in the shower, and he's like, no, Mel, not you.
and he really hates Ricky as well. He fucking hates
him.
Ricky.
But just like everybody in this film.
But then he goes into a monologue on his own, doesn't he?
Unhinged. And then just
that
goes...
boy? I've got to get him. He's not going to get away with this. No, that's right. He's not going to get... It's like fucking Gollum.
I'll do it. I'll do it for you, Meg. I'll do it for you. And then when he finds him and like beats the ever-loving shit out of this like 12-year-old boy. Like so bad.
What? Oh my gosh!
It's just insanity. And we haven't even got to the kills yet. And speaking of, I think the first one, right, is the actual the literal paedophile.
Yes, Arty.
Arty, who works in the kitchen. First thing he says when we see him is that he's like, I call them baldies or something, right? And it's like
that's disgusting. Yeah, fresh chickens. I call them baldies. And then someone says bit young, and he goes, no such thing as too young. It's like, whoa, okay, you're just welcome to camp.
What is this film? It is just bonkers, isn't it? And I'm so glad that he is
fucked up.
He's dealt with swiftly.
Well, not only is he dealt with swiftly, but I think. So there's the line that the doctor gives when he turns up to collect the screaming, I think his name's like Arty or Arnie or something, the cook, and he's he's like just screaming. He's got boiling water all over him, like, and the doctor says, I just want to read this verbatim because this is the sort of thing that I've got some enemies that I wouldn't mind somebody saying this. I don't carry the kind of sedative to mask the agony he's in right now. And I'm watching that and I'm like, oh, that's a good end for a pedo, isn't it?
That's a good line.
Good end for a pedo. Like, couldn't happen to a nicer bloke. Do you know what I mean?
Also, this like trained doctor, I love it because the first thing they say to him is like, well, what's the prognosis? And he's like, he's very badly burned.
Very burned.
Thank God you're here, doctor.
I'm afraid I don't carry a sedative strong enough to mask the kind of agony he's in right now. Every nerve in his body must feel like it's on fire.
What's the prognosis, Doc?
Well, he's badly burned all over, especially his face.
Look, can we move this along, please? There's no need to upset the campers, right?
Well, I guess I'll be on my way.
So good. So good.
Yes.
It's a brilliant scene. It's a strange scene because I don't know why he didn't just like
get off the stool.
Yeah, step down off the stool and not dive headfirst into the boiling pot. But
why did he keep held on to the top of it so that when he goes down it comes with him? Yeah, very interesting.
This is when he's on the floor. This is one of the examples of camera shot on him screaming, and then is it Ben, the guy who then gets promoted to head chef? I think his name's Ben. So it'll go Arty screaming, Ben looking.
Yeah.
Arty screaming, Ben, ooh, and it just goes back about it feels like about 12 times.
Yeah.
And like you said, Mike, like it holds it. There's certain points where the camera will just hold it like a second longer than feels natural to do so, and it's really
they get
jarring
their money's
and
worth.
weird. Yeah, I mean,
they want to get their money's worth out of the effect, don't they? It's like, no, look, this took 3 hours to make.
The weird, like, something does happen with the pustules on his face and stuff, like they move things, and that's pretty cool, and it really does let it linger for you to appreciate that.
Yeah, he was built into the floor for this. It was quite well done, actually, and so that he had wires and stuff actually coming up through the floor which were spurting stuff out and making it bubble.
Yeah,
I love that. Love that. And I like the way that all of the deaths in this, rather than just your typical slashings, they are all linked in some way to summer camp, right? As well, whether it's something in the kitchen or bees or archery,
archery, canoeing,
canoeing, exactly. It's so good, so fun, and it sets up straight away this kind of whodunit mystery, doesn't it? Because I think he looks at the killer, doesn't he? And he's like, "Oh, it's you," and stuff, and everyone seems to sort of know who it is, sort of setting up that it's somebody at the camp. Yeah.
But that's the same as the first Friday the 13th, which doesn't really work because everyone's like, oh, no, not you. So you think it's someone you know. And then
it's not. And then it's,
yeah. Oh, hello, woman we've never seen before until this point. Yeah, it's true. And it's kind of the same with this, isn't it? Where it's like, well, it's fairly obvious, who it is. And it's like every time one of these characters messes with Angela, they are then killed.
Yeah. But this is why I think it, because you see Ricky getting so angry about it all the time. And obviously Mel believes it's him. And whenever they do walk in, and the person says, oh, it's you, they're always very, very careful for it will be somebody who... So basically, they're always going to react to either Angela or Ricky in like a quite sort of dismissive and like negative way because they don't think anything of any of them. So with Judy, for example, when the person's in this... doorway, the silhouette, and then he comes in and she says like, oh, it's you, like, what are you doing here, or something. Like, she could have sneered like that at Angela, or it could have been Ricky as well, because we know that she's too mature for Ricky nowadays because she's 38.
Because she's 38.
Yeah, and they do make sure on a couple of kills it's like, get out of here, kid.
Yeah,
so you do know it's one of the kids.
And also it's like gender free as well, isn't it? Like, whenever they talk to them, like, they never, I mean, I don't think you'd ever say get out of here, girl, necessarily, but
kid.
Well, also what's coming later, you don't want to
sure no, absolutely, you don't want to assume,
and also the POV shots are always really low down. It's kind of like Chucky, like it reminds me of like Chucky cams, like scampering along the floor. So good, it's so good. The next kill is that one in the speedboat, right? Or not in the speedboat, but just in the sort of the canoe that flips
Kenny
over.
In the canoe.
Yeah, Kenny. Yeah, that was an odd
Again, another bit that is completely bonkers, where he like capsizes it because boys, honestly, like, what is it with boys? You're so weird. You are so weird. I'm in a nice canoe with a nice girl, but I'm going to ruin that by scaring her and rocking it and like tipping her into the water so she hates me. You're so odd, all of you.
And then all of the other boys are like,
nice one, Kenny. Classic. So anyway, then Kenny's under the boat and he does that weird thing where he's like singing in the boat, but he'll be like, so the way he sort of does it's like, hello, like, it's just like his facial expressions and everything, it's just like everything is so mental.
It's what's brilliant about it is that this film doesn't really feel like it has that much downtime. Like, some of the kills, there are gaps between them, but there's always something so weird going on, is that it never really feels too slow or boring at any point, which I love, because everything is mental in this.
But his, again, it's a death you don't quite see, but when you get the reveal of his body, I fucking love it. The snake coming out of his mouth.
Because he was just joking about the
girl.
Snakes.
Yeah, it's great.
And it's good, isn't it? Because, so, Stevie, do you know, is that a prosthetic head, or is they, like, that can't, can't put a snake in his mouth, right? But
it's prosthetic.
It looks good, because it's quite a close-up, and often, like, even in much more modern films, you'll see like a prosthetic of somebody's head, and it'll look good, but you can tell. But it's really well done in this.
Really good.
Yeah,
really
I think it's a brilliant moment.
How was it that he was actually killed? Was he just drowned? Is that like what happened to him?
Well, that's what we see. That's what we see happening. That he's like gets pushed under,
right? Yeah,
by another child.
And then you get Ronnie later. Nice, kind Ronnie, and he's like, I'm just surprised because that kid always seemed like such a good swimmer.
Yeah. Oh. I was thinking our friend Josh Tonks, he's actually at a summer camp right now, isn't he, in Canada? I was like, that's who Josh would be. That one. Probably in similar shorts, I reckon, as well.
I
So
hope he's okay. John, has anyone checked in with him
I
recently?
know, I haven't checked. He's got no. He said he's got no Wi-Fi.
no service.
Wow.
This is the beginning of a horror film right there, isn't it? No signal, no Wi-Fi. But anyway, hope you're all right, Josh. Then we've got a classic. This was one of the ones I remembered most, which is Billy getting killed in the toilet cubicle via bees. That is nasty, isn't it? I have a slight phobia, and actually I was on holiday in Scotland last week, and we stayed in this like really cool like wooden. It was like a tree house, and it was beautiful, and it had this like outdoor like a bathtub and all these like really lovely things. It was really nice, but on the first night that we were in bed, I could just hear this like weird sort of scratching noise on the roof, like of the wood, and it was really distracting all night. We were like, "What is that?" And the next morning we looked, and above the roof, just like hundreds of wasps, and there was a wasp nest literally in our ceiling. And then that's all I could think about for the rest of the day was that all night they were like just right there above me, just scratching, just trying to get through. And I have a slight fear of wasps and bees, and that was it for me. I was like, can I ever go back in there?
For good reason.
Yeah.
Assholes.
Because they're fucking assholes, and they really, really hurt when they sting you.
Yeah, and you don't want to sleep underneath a nest of them. That's not a relaxing holiday.
No, and I'm quite allergic. I don't go into anaphylactic, but I react very badly. So wherever they sting me, it blows up like a personal flotation device. And I remember I was filming something in Canada back in 2001, and it was all in the woods. And we were doing one shot where we were all running through the woods, and someone must have kicked a wasp's nest because suddenly the director was like, "Stop, stop!" And so everyone stopped, and it was like My Girl. There was just bees absolutely everywhere, and so everyone just had to stay still, and we were all okay. And then I left. We got away because they sort of all dispersed, and I felt something on my hand, and I looked down, and just on my palm there's this bee just going like this sort of bit, just like repeatedly like stabbing me with its shit sword or whatever. And then my hand became so ballooned, I had to hide it in shots in my pocket for everything. And then I had to go to the doctor and have it drained.
Oh my God.
Because it was full of fluid. So they scare me for that reason as well. And My Girl absolutely traumatized me when I was a kid. And so this bit in this film really, I did not like it at all.
This is a traumatic scene, isn't it, this? Again, the kind of the end money shot of the body with the wasps all over it is
just
horrific.
So many bees.
Yeah.
All over the face, like, because it's quite a good it's a good shot really, because it like does quite a slow pan kind of up from the arm, and you see the arm's got some quite nasty stings on it, like sort of big red and a bit weepy, and then you get up like past the shoulder to the head, and it's just like bees, just full face of bees.
They just poured melted sugar over the prosthetic head, and then they all just swarmed on it, and they were like, action.
It's God, it's good.
I've got
good.
It is swarms of things as well. Like Mike, as you were describing that thing in the roof, I'd have been fucking out of there. I don't think I would have done that.
The Airbnb owner was amazing though, because we texted her that morning about it, and she was like, "Don't." And we were like, "We're going out for the day. We'll be back later though. Like, is there anything we can do? Can we move to a different?" Because there were a couple of these little tree houses, and she was like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll get the wasp man in." And I don't know what he did, but like we came back and they were all dead, and it was gone.
I wonder if he doesn't exterminate them, but he's basically like Candyman. He turns up and they all just cover him, and then he just walks out with them.
Just closes his coat around them and walks away.
Be my victim. Maybe. It is, and you know, these kills, they do get increasingly nasty, because then you've got poor Judy, and this was I think a bit unnecessarily nasty, right?
No, she got everything she deserved. You can't be that much of a Disney villain bitch to everybody around you for an hour, and then expect
and not
to
get
not
fucked by a hot curling iron,
and not get fucked. Yeah, exactly. Had it coming.
It's so rough. Well, the actual scene, of course, was the one we see is completely cut. They actually had sort of really gross graphic. And the MP, what was the one in America? MPAA, yeah. They said it was absolutely far too grisly, and so they cut it. And actually, originally Jane Krakowski was going to play Judy, and then she turned it down once she read how she died, and then that didn't even make it into the film.
Wow.
But I don't think I think it's suggestive enough. I don't think we do need to see it.
This was my thing that I said at the beginning about shadow puppets, because it's amazing. You get the shadow of the curling irons coming in, and then as it's killing, just the hand.
Oh, the hat! It's so good. It's like suddenly we're in like German expressionism. Or
I know, it's amazing.
It's so good. Yeah, I loved it. And yeah, you see enough to get the gist. I mean, it's still quite grisly and gross, isn't it? And we also had, actually, I missed Meg as well in the shower. That's a bit of your more classic slasher death, right? Slashed right down the back.
Cheap and easy, that one, isn't it? Because it's just two different shots. It's her leaning against a wall going, ow! And then on another shot, they've just stabbed a bit of styrofoam. And
but I do like how the blood, as they do drag it down her back, the blood sort of spurts through the wall.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a nice touch, you know?
It's a nasty old gash she's got down her back as well by the end of it, you know?
Again, good. Like, again, couldn't happen to a nicer girl. Like, these bastards, they all had it coming.
They've thrown her in the water as well, hadn't they, at this point, when she clearly doesn't want to swim.
Oh, it's really horrible, that moment, isn't it, as well?
So mean.
So mean.
Poor Angela.
But I'm not sure about whether the next bunch of victims deserve it, because do you remember what happens next?
Yeah, I do.
Well, it's Rampage, isn't it now?
It's Rampage.
Isn't it when Eddie takes the little ones out camping?
Yeah, poor Eddie and the little ones.
Poor Eddie, he's just managed to get them all settled, and one of them's like, I'm cold, I want to go home, and then the other one's like, yeah, me too. And so he takes them and then comes back from dropping those two off, just comes back to just a toddler massacre. Just horrific.
It's awful.
It is. They didn't deserve it, did they? Those poor little nippers. Yeah.
Who is it that gets the arrow? Is it Mel that gets the arrow?
Mel gets arrowed, yeah.
That's a good shot.
It's good.
I don't mean the person who shot the arrow. I mean the actual...
I mean, it works both ways, but yeah.
Nice shot.
Well, they've obviously got excellent archery tutorial at this camp. Like, there may be pedos, Stevie, there may be a killer on the loose, but I tell you what, they will teach you how to shoot an arrow straight.
Yeah. And then this is the strange ending, really, isn't it? Which we should talk about. Which is
strange ending.
Strange ending. Where Angela has sort of told Paul, you know, she's like, "Oh, come and meet me down by the lake and everything," and he's like, yeah, finally, and everything, and heads down there. And then we get that very, very strange reveal. Who is it that finds them? It's just some of the camp counsellors, isn't it, that find...
Well, it's Ronnie and Susie. Susie is like Ronnie's female counterpart, because she's the one of the female counsellors who's also just very nice and just nice to Angela all the time. Yeah. So actually, it's quite horrific for... If you think about the trauma that this is going to leave Ronnie and Susie with, where they've just been nothing but nice and doing such a great job all the way through, and they're the ones who find him.
Yeah, because we get the flashback, of course, showing that Aunt Mildred Martha, when she took Angela, when she took
Peter,
what's his name, Peter, in as guardian, she thinks 2 boys is too much, and so she forced Peter to grow up as a girl.
Yeah, and this is the, you know, we've touched upon it already. This is a problematic area here. So the character of Angela, played by Felissa Rose, turns out to be a boy. Turns out to be her brother Peter, right? This is that reveal. There's a flashback that kind of reveals that, like you said, Stevie. There was an earlier flashback we didn't mention where the 2 kids spy on their dad making out in bed with his boyfriend. And so there's something kind of weird suggested there as well behind this whole backstory. But I'm assuming that what the film is saying is that Angela has turned into a homicidal killer because they've been forced to live as a girl against their will.
Yeah. I mean, that's very much how I read it. I thought it was interesting, Stevie, you said earlier that it was suggested that she was mad because her dad was gay. Like, I didn't pick up on that at all. I thought it was 100% that it's like she's basically been forced,
but it is sort of
to be a different gender by somebody else.
It is sort of planting that too, though, isn't it? Like,
do you think so?
Well, otherwise, what is the point?
Because when Paul's making out with her or him,
yes,
because obviously if this gender has been forced upon him, he probably still identifies as a boy and thinks he's a boy.
Yes.
So maybe it's that when Paul is kissing him, he has a flashback of his 2 his dad and his boyfriend, and something about that freaks him out and pushes him off him.
Well, because he's like, oh God, I'm gay too.
I don't know. There's something there, yeah.
Okay,
There was also
no.
something
Yeah, you're
that
right. You're right.
There is something
freaks
there.
him out.
And there was also a couple of throwaway comments to suggest that maybe Paul was gay or something, right? Or it might have just been the bully saying that. Did you notice that? They're like, oh, probably not your type, right? And all this about girls.
That's right. And they called him I can't remember what it was.
I think
sort of-
literally they say to him at one point, like, just, I think it's when they're playing baseball, they say something just like, go fuck a man, or something like that. Like, literally, just
something smart and nuanced like that. Yeah.
No, it's the girls. That's right. The girls seem to go, oh, not your type, gay boy, or whatever it is.
So kind of like, I guess, sort of trying to be like, oh, a bit of a clue that like, oh, he's attracted to Angela because Angela's a boy, but obviously Felissa Rose isn't. But like, it's such a strange murky thing, isn't it?
And they they got a college student to, when you get that reveal at the very end with her face just wide looking to the side and naked, and you just see the penis. So they got a college boy to agree to do it, and he had to get really drunk. That was a condition beforehand, to stand there. And they made a cast of her head. So when you see the actual shot, that's her.
I was going to ask how they did it. Okay.
Yeah. So they made, you see her doing that face. And then when it's the long shot and it's slightly shadowed, they've got a cast of her head and it's this drunk college boy who never put his name to it. And no one knows who that was to this day. They don't know who that boy was that did that. There was another option, which rightly they stopped, where it was, they were going to have her wearing a strap-on. They had a strap-on made for 13-year-old Felissa Rose, and her mum was like, I don't think we should be doing that. Actually, I'm not too sure I want her to do that. So yeah, they scrapped that one.
Oh my God!
So it's a cast.
It's a haunting image, though.
It is a haunting image, and so because you talk about her, the expression, like that's the iconic shot now, isn't it? I mean,
why is she pulling that face?
Why is she pulling that face?
No, it's because it's just
wild mania.
Truly
right?
lost it now at this point.
Because she's decapitated
like
Paul. Let's not miss the fact that she's decapitated Paul. And when they find her, she's just sitting there cross-legged with his head in her lap, just like gently stroking his hair and humming. Like, yeah, I mean, that face is just the next stage on from that, isn't it?
Yeah, she's cracked. It's like she's feral. It's like a cave child, isn't it? That shot.
There's something kind of like sort of cheeky about it too, like she's just been caught in the act.
She's just like,
I always said it's like you've just told a joke and no one's laughed, and you go, guys, like,
anyone?
do you get it?
Anyone?
You get it?
Oh God, it is. Or like you've just awkwardly walked into a room from the shower naked, and actually someone's in there, and you're slowly then backing out again. Or something.
Sorry.
It works on so many levels, but it's true. Like that is the most iconic shot, isn't it? Now
it's the most iconic shot, and what I love is Felissa Rose now. She does loads of conventions and stuff. Apparently, she is the loveliest person to meet.
Yeah.
And she'll just like, I mean, I say gladly. I'm sure she does. Yeah, like just gladly will pose with fans, pull the face. Like they'll both do the face. Like it's just become this absolute kind of calling card, which I love so much.
She's been pulling that face for 30 years now.
Honestly,
40 years. Yeah, insane.
40. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah, she always does it, and she does seem absolutely awesome. You can actually, if you type in "making of Sleepaway Camp," there's a 45-minute documentary on it, and it's really worth a watch because it's Felissa and her mum's on it as well talking about. And she's like, we went to this audition, and then my daughter. It's really fun.
Well, and then it just ends, and it's like, oh my God, this is a crazy reveal. What's going to happen next? Credits just roll. It's amazing as well. It's like, again, the pacing, the timing. It's such a weird film, isn't it?
Bizarre.
So weird. And Ronnie just says something like, how can it be?
Yeah.
How can it be?
How can it be? God, she's a boy.
I was going to say, apart from obviously the cool shots of after death, watching it this time, I thought knowing the reveal and all those bits, I don't know about its rewatchability. It's not something that I'm going to revisit soon. I will eventually, but for me, it's not one that I think I will shove on for the fun and the kills.
I don't know.
I think it's just a bit darker for me.
I'd put it back on now.
I think I would as well.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I'd go and watch it now.
I think for me there is something more rewatchable in a way about it because it's not playing itself deadly straight and it's so fun and silly.
Really?
Yeah. But it's not, it's not as good a horror film as like even My Bloody Valentine, I don't think, or some of those others we've talked about, which I think have genuine kind of suspense and, play on the horror. But this is just so fucking mad, isn't it? That I kind of love
and
it.
It was like you were saying, like the sort of bits between kills. There's always something going on. There isn't that sort of just like people stood around having conversations.
I mean, we talked about how
we
talked about how boring Fear Street 1978 is in places, right? Where it's just like summer camp kids just chatting to each other, and it's quite dull.
Like talking about their problems. Yeah. It's like, no, even if you're hanging out with the kids, you've got them in the bunk playing pranks on each other. Like poor Mozart, that kid Mozart, who's his entire role in this film is just to be on the receiving end of all of these horrible, disgusting boy pranks.
Mozart pulls a knife on them at one point.
Just pulls a knife.
And then the counsellor comes in and's like, I'll take that. You won't be seeing that again. And just like puts it under a towel right next to it. It's like, Mozart's going to see that.
It's like, what a reasonable reaction to a harmless shaving foam in the face. Just like pulls a fucking hunting knife.
Attempted murder.
It's a hunting knife. Just like.
I mean, Becky, I know how much you don't like pranks. I could see you reacting that way to something like that.
I would cut a bitch.
I know how much you love a decapitation.
But bless her. I mean, it's not even pranking though. It's hazing. It's full on.
It's rough. That one with the face in the bum. No, thank you.
Oh yeah. Unnecessary.
No, thank you.
Unnecessary. But it is. Yeah, I think I more agree with you, Becky. I think this movie does have a bit of rewatchability for that reason for me, just because of how much bonkersness is going on at all times.
Because it's not just the kills. It's everybody's then like their reactions, like Mel's reaction to finding Meg, and like I don't know. Yeah, I just think it's. For me, I enjoy all the bits between the kills enough that it doesn't bother me so much that the kills aren't quite so kind of gruesome, I guess, or like the main focal point.
Fine, why don't you two go marry it?
Is it up there for you, Becky, in terms of like, early 80s slashers? There are so many of them that we've talked about now as well, but is it like upper tier for you out of all of them?
It is for me. Yeah, I don't like disagreeing with Stevie. It makes me hurt. It makes me hurt inside. But,
also, I can't believe Stevie doesn't like a camp 80s slasher movie.
I didn't say I didn't like it. I really like it. I love it. I do love it. I don't enjoy it as much.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me. I think it's good in the way that it actually makes me quite uncomfortable. Quite a lot of it.
Yeah, no.
And so to put on something silly and fun, this wouldn't be my choice because this one gets under my skin a bit.
Yeah, I do agree with that. It is uncomfortable and it is tonally all over the place, like all over the place. Like you're supposed to kind of laugh at the wackiness, and then kind of you've got paedophiles and all this other stuff, and it is. But I think that's something about that makes me find it slightly more interesting than some of the other movies of this
It's very
era.
original.
Yeah.
I think.
So there you go. That was Sleepaway Camp. And now something very different. And we're moving to from such a quintessential 80s horror movie to such a 90s one. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer from 1998.
After what happened last summer,
We are going to the Bahamas.
nobody deserves a vacation more than Julie James.
We have arrived in paradise.
And here, miles from civilization,
To a great weekend.
To a great weekend for
she's finally gotten away from it all.
I should have changed that stupid lock. I should have made Julie the key. If I'd have known for just 1 second, you'd be back to bother me. Don't know the lyrics. Hold on. You did something to the screen. I said, what are you talking about?
I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Get hooked again.
In a world where you can win a trip to the Bahamas off the radio and no one points out you got the answer wrong until over half the people you're with are dead. 4 friends go on the trip of a lifetime for the 4th of July weekend. But Julie can't escape her past, and soon Ben Willis, or somebody, is once again writing notes and taking over karaoke machines to bring new terror into her life. Can Ray, the most boring man alive, get to paradise in time to save Julie and her pals, or are they too hooked on murder to survive one more summer?
Oh. Fantastic. Stevie, let me ask you. Now, I remember you're not always the biggest fan of this era, are you, of slasher movies? I remember you saying about Valentine and stuff, you weren't the biggest fan. Is that right, or have I got that wrong?
No, I am this sort of end of the 90s, but it's when they cross the 2000 line, I think they get a little bit.
Yeah.
I adore this film, and I don't understand everyone's fucking problem. So many people dislike it. And it's exactly what you want. It's like they've learned. It's what I find strange is the first I Know What You Did Last Summer is a really great, solid film. It's a slow burn, though. There's not that much action. It's the pace of it is gradual, and then it's kind of like with this one, they've seen the other films coming out, sort of replicating them, and then they're trying to match the ones replicating them by going, we need to make it bigger and faster and funnier and all this sort of stuff. And I love it. I think it's so great. And this and The Faculty was the first 2 films I ever owned on DVD in those hard jewel cases. And I watched it on my big Packard Bell PC, which had a DVD drive, which was revolutionary. Yeah. And I watched it again and again and again. And it had the extras. The extra was the music video trailer, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And the music video of Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Yeah.
So this is a special film for me, and I won't hear a bad word about it.
I am right there with you, Stevie. I'm 100% Team Stevie with this one. I think this is so much better than the first one. It actually embraces its kind of ridiculousness, which I think the first one didn't feel so serious, the first one. I think it's ridiculous and stupid, and I think some of the characters are awful, mainly the main couple of characters from the first film I think are awful, but I did have a lot of fun with it, and it feels like a proper slasher, this, doesn't it? That's the thing.
Yes.
Becky, what about you? What did you think of I Still Know What You Did Last Summer?
I largely agree with you guys. It is better than the first, there's no doubt about that, and I've always said so, actually. Yeah. There are good things about the first one, but I don't rate it. It's not great, I think this is better. It's got some interesting stuff, and do you know what, like Jennifer Love Hewitt has quite obviously in this film done a summer school or something in the Neve Campbell and Sarah Michelle Gellar School of Acting, because she's gone from whatever the fuck was going on in the first one to not actually that bad in this one. And there are some facial expressions and stuff where I'm like, you've got that from Neve, or oh, she's going a bit Sarah Michelle Gellar there. So she doesn't annoy me as much as she does in the first one. And I like the new setting. I think it's fine. It's not great, but it's all right. I don't hate it, and it is better than the first.
Yeah. Let's talk about Jennifer. I think Jennifer Love Hewitt I don't think it's her fault, but I think that the character of Julie is one of the most insufferable, boring, bland final girls I have ever seen in a horror film. In fact, the only person more boring than her, as you rightly pointed out, Becky, is her boyfriend, Ray, played by Freddie Prinze Jr. The two sort of, I suppose, main stars of this film, I think, are the two worst elements of it. Bar Jack Black, maybe, but we'll get to that. But Julie, I mean, Stevie, am I being harsh? Is Julie not the most boring final girl that has ever existed?
Yeah. Yes. No, you're not being harsh, unfortunately. It is disappointing. And as you say, it's not Jennifer Love Hewitt's fault, because she's not a badass. She's a whiny, prissy, boring person. And that's I'm not saying she has to be outlandish and outgoing, but something that, Nancy Thompson had, or that Sidney Prescott has, is they've got that fight because they've overcome something, and they've got that fight in them, and they're staunch and strong. And she just doesn't have that. She's just a bit wet, literally, in this one. Well, actually, in all of them, they always get a shot of Sarah Michelle Gellar shouting in the rain.
So much, like in a thin shirt in the rain.
Jennifer Love Hewitt. So.
In a thin white shirt in the rain, running around looking really pissed off and upset as well. I kind of thought, thank God for Brandy in this film, right? Who kind of brings a bit of life and charisma to the whole thing. Did you agree, Becky?
Brandy's amazing in this.
Yeah.
Real breath of fresh air, actually, after the last one. She is essentially the Sarah Michelle Gellar of this one, because you had Sarah Michelle Gellar in the first one, you got Brandy in this one. And she's stellar.
Do you find this, we've talked about this a lot together, but do you find that this kind of, again, very much fits the mould in terms of the conventions, I suppose, of this sort of late 90s slashers rather than, for example, the Sleepaway Camp-esque early 80s slasher?
So much. Like, for me, the bits that do detract from this it's like, oh, good. Another scene of Julie walking around a hotel room very slowly, looking a bit nervous while there's some tense score playing in the background. Oh, she's going to open that door extremely slowly, and now she's going to look around it. Oh, look, there's nobody there. So she'll close it again extremely slowly and then move. I'm like, is anything going to happen at any point? And all of the scares are somebody creeping up behind someone, but actually, oh, it's a nice person, really. Or Brandy in the wardrobe. Oh, I was just looking for your skirt. Or Will in the bedroom. Oh, no, I was just leaving you some roses. It's like, it is so bland. It is so bland.
No.
So all the way through it, I'm just thinking, is anything going to happen?
Yeah.
And then about the last 10 minutes, fine, everything happens. But otherwise, oh my God.
The score is relentless as well with those jump scares. It's like, bah, 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 bah. Like, it is outrageous.
And like all this bollocks about like when it's such a post-Scream thing where you pull a knife out of somewhere and it goes shing, shing, shing. Or, oh my God. Like, oh, no, it actually, I think I've changed my mind. It really irritates me, this film.
Stevie, you don't look like you agree with that.
I know, it's exactly what I want. I want all of those things. But I think I enjoy it in a nostalgic way. If I'm really honest, like, what if I watched it now, not having seen it and not having a fondness for it? Yeah, I think I can probably agree with a lot of what Becky's saying, but I think it just triggers something in me about that era of the 90s. And the tropes, I love them because it was just of its time, all those tropes. And I especially, we're going back to Brandy, there was something that became very popular was to cast, so in the sort of mid to late 90s and into the early 2000s, hip hop and R&B had become really mainstream and really popular, and it was the number one genre across the board, and it was number one in all of the charts. And so horror films, it became this sort of tradition to get an artist from R&B or hip hop. So you had Ice Cube in Anaconda, you've got Brandy in this, you've got Busta Rhymes in Halloween Resurrection, you've got LL Cool J in Deep Blue Sea and Halloween H2O, you've got Rod Digger in House on Haunted Hill. So that was a thing. It became a trope, and I loved it. So, and having Brandy, as you said, just to go back to that, I think she's absolutely awesome. I think she's the best thing in this.
By far.
But also she is an actress anyway, as well as a singer. She already was, so that works. But I think it ticks all the boxes, and I think it kind of learnt from its mistakes from the first one and just gave us a little bit more of those, which was what was missing for me from the first one.
And less Freddie Prinze Jr. as well in this one as well.
Yeah, that was
less him.
That's smart move.
And again, I don't know if it's necessarily Freddie Prinze Jr.'s fault. I mean, he's not the best actor, but I don't know if it's his fault entirely that Ray is just so boring and bland again,
Stupid.
Oh my God, it's so bad. It's so bad. And I think the thing I find that really kind of hit home for me watching this back to back with Sleepaway Camp as well is that tonally the 90s ones, they're so serious as well. Like there's something about the insufferable, like, okay, fine, Julie has been through a lot because of the first film and she had friends get murdered and stuff, but she's so fucking miserable, and like it's the drama that I find really boring in this movie. It's the same with Valentine. It's the same with H2O. It's like whenever it's not being a horror film, which it isn't a lot of the time in some of these films, it's just lingering on that Dawson's Creek style. Kids acting a bit like adults, like they've got the weight of the world on their shoulders, and they don't. They're actually really rich, privileged, beautiful-looking kids.
Ray, I can't.
But you can't what?
I feel like there's this small part of me that hasn't healed up enough to go back. So please understand.
I understand.
No, it's not like that, Ray. It's not you, okay? It is not you. It's all me in my head. You know, I want to go back. I want to be fine. I want to be with you. And I want everything to be like it was. It just isn't. Why didn't you stay up here? You know, fireworks over the river, a million little things to do.
I have to work, Julie. My boat's in Southport, remember? But, hey, it's cool. You need your space from Crokerland, and probably from me, too.
Ray?
And that is the thing I find insufferable. Thankfully for me in this film, I find that the kills do come quite thick and fast, and the jumps, and I like all that stuff, and I like a lot of the supporting cast, so it's not as bad as the first one. But that's the element for me of the 90s slashers that I just find so boring now, I think, you know.
There's one bit where they're in the jacuzzi, and it's like it's really lighthearted, and it's quite funny because you've got Ty and Carla, and poor Ty is just trying to get his end away. He thought they were coming off on this like tropical romantic holiday together.
He's just so angry and horny throughout the whole film, isn't he?
Super angry. So there's one bit towards the end where he goes, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm fucking horny, and I haven't seen a murderer the whole time we've been here, and then takes a hook like through the throat. But it was good that he had that moment of self-realization before he died.
Yeah.
But anyway, they're in the jacuzzi, and like they're sort of playing around, and like he just wants to have sex, and she's lost her hair tie, and blah 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 blah. And then Jack Black shows up as comic relief. Listeners won't be able to see my rabbit ears, but comic relief. And then Will comes in, and he slides into the jacuzzi, and they say, "Where's Julie?" And he says, "Oh, well, she's in her room. She's on her own." And then he looks around and he goes, "Any advice?" And I'm like, wait a minute, what am I watching? Is this an episode of Dawson's Creek?
Yeah.
Or is this supposed to be a fucking slasher film? Because why aren't any of these people dead yet?
Yeah. Well, this is the problem, is that sometimes they forget that they are slasher films, and they do become Dawson's Creek episodes. And that's a good example of it.
Actually, speaking of Dawson's Creek, the lady who plays the bartender, Nancy, is her name Nancy?
The hot one. Yeah.
Jennifer Esposito.
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know. But she played Gretchen in Dawson's Creek after they've gone to college, and she was one of my main bisexual awakenings.
Oh.
So I'd forgotten she was in it. I was delighted when she showed up. I was like, "Oh, hello, babes."
She's incredibly hot.
Well,
and she's dressed like Sporty Spice in this for some reason. Did you notice that?
The 90s, isn't it? It's the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll breeze through the story. Let's talk about the story. I mean, it starts off with that hilarious dream sequence as well, which is where, and I think that's partly that dream sequence works in a number of ways, where she's in the church and she's confessing. Mm-hmm. It gets the whole plot of the first one out the way, in case you haven't seen it. She literally tells this man everything that happened to her in the first film.
I like that. It's clever.
And also, it's a good opening jump scare. And also, she then goes, "Oh, I had that dream," and then Will goes, "Oh, what, the one in the shower?" And she goes, "No, this one was in a church." And they're referring to the final scene of the first film, right, where she's in the shower and gets attacked, and it's like, "Oh, that didn't really happen. It was a dream," kind of thing. So they did all that nice and swiftly and economically. I enjoyed that, you know.
It's a great, and they released this opening scene as there was 2 teasers, and they were interchangeable, which was going to be the opening scene and which was going to be a teaser that's not in the film. But they released both teasers. So there was that whole opening scene, which is the dream, or one where she's in her doctor's office, her sort of psychiatrist's office, and she's talking through the man with the hook, and then and the doctor's saying, "There is no man with the hook. There is no man with the hook. Come on, say it with me," into the mirror. And then the hook smashes through the mirror, and it's so good. They both really work. But
I remember that really vividly, actually.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're introduced to Will. What do we think of new love and interest, Will. Anything to say about Will whatsoever?
So boring.
So boring.
Like who I can't even bring him to. I only watched it this morning. Can't even bring him to mind. Like,
is he meant to be though? It's like, do they want the new love interest to be boring so that we don't go, oh, actually, we want our final girl to be with him now, so we always feel long for them to be together.
Well, exactly.
Because in Scream 2, like the Jerry O'Connell...
This is the trouble, Stevie, is if you've got a present boyfriend who's as boring as Ray, your future your now prospective boyfriend has to be more boring, because otherwise the audience is going to be rooting for them. You're absolutely right. So the reason Will is so boring is because you have to somehow make him more boring than Ray.
Yeah. They're kind of interchangeable, the two of them anyway. Like, they're pretty similar. They kind of look the same. Like, one of them is just around a bit more.
Ross, isn't it?
One of them smells of fish and the other one doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I ask something that I don't really remember? Was Ray a fisherman in the first one?
Yes. In fact,
I couldn't remember.
In fact, I think he was actually a suspect in the first one too. Like, they almost kind of at points make it look like he could be the killer.
That's right. Yeah.
As like I think he was like the only one that wasn't the rich kid, and he was like the angry, kind of more working class fisherman.
That's right. And they also find like one of the like slicker things, like he has one, doesn't he? Because he kind of works at the docks and stuff.
And
so
he has a hook
definitely.
and stuff. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I just found it surprising that he's still a fisherman after the events of... Well, actually, this film should be called I Still Know What You Did 2 Summers Ago.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. 2 summers ago, yeah.
But he's he's not traumatised by the fisherman who killed his mates.
Unless it's about the fact that they killed him again at the end of I Know What You Did Last Summer, and that's what he's referring to as
but then it would be called I Know What You Did Last Summer, because it's to respect it's a new thing, but last summer.
Oh, you're right. So it doesn't work in any way, shape, or form. Yeah.
Unless it's I Know What You Did Last Summer and the summer before.
Yeah.
It should be.
Still.
And I know what you'll do next summer.
Oh, God. And then they get into that boring, we get straight into it like, oh, you're with your new college friends and I'm here on the boat and you don't want to come back to our hometown and see me and blah, 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 blah.
She's not ready. That. She's not ready, Mike. She's still dealing out that trauma.
Yeah, and he's like, it's fine, you probably need a break from that town and a break from me, and then like runs off crying, doesn't he?
Strops.
Yeah. Whilst Jennifer Love Hewitt's song How Do I Deal plays in the background.
Yeah, I know. Jennifer Love Hewitt, so was she a singer? Like, was this a career that was happening at this point?
She's had lots of albums, and I like several of her songs, Mike. But this was she used this as a great platform. She used this as a platform to spring off. And I reckon, surely, when they were like, so just let you know we've cast Brandy. But she was like, what?
Yeah, so she's like, in that case, I want a karaoke scene.
Well, and do you know what I love so much about the karaoke scene is it is such a wonderful example of somebody who can sing pretending they can't sing.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Because she's so reluctant. Oh, Julie. Oh, no, I couldn't possibly do anything fun. Don't make me sing in front of all of these 3 people and a barmaid who couldn't care less. And then she proceeds to, and you can hear it. She is like, she could fucking sing that song. You she could, but she's like putting all these sort of little like end of line little sort of like voice cracks and stuff.
Like giggling at herself.
I can't sing really. So funny.
And then we meet her new friends. I mean, we've talked about this already, but Brandy, absolute MVP, right, as well. What do we think of the character of Tyrell, played by Mekhi Phifer? Fan?
Fine. I think he's sort of shoeboxed a little bit. Sort of just like he's the angry boyfriend who just wants to fuck.
Yeah, I was gonna say he is classic best friend's boyfriend.
Yeah, that is all.
So
he
like
does.
all he's interested in is sex,
like in Clueless.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, I love Mekhi Phifer, so I think if you need somebody to come in and play that role, like now we know that Mekhi Phifer is like way better than that role, but at that time, because he's super young in this, like he looks like such a baby.
He does.
And,
do you guys remember O from the 90s, the basketball version of Othello starring Mekhi Phifer?
God, I'd forgotten, but
and Julia Stiles. Yeah,
that's another.
Well, they don't make her dance, do they?
They don't. In fact, she doesn't do much except die really in that film. But that's another miserable 90s teen movie.
But also Mekhi Phifer plays the boy in the music video for The Boy Is Mine, Brandy's song.
That's
So
right.
It's a nice little, they're back together.
Nice little crossover. In fact, this film actually, considering how quite naff it is, it does have a pretty good cast, really, doesn't it, when you look at it now?
Yeah.
It's like, Mekhi Phifer, Brandy, Jeffrey Combs, John Hawkes is in this for a bit as well. Like, it's a strange kind of impressive cast in a way for a such a sequel.
Mark Boone Jr. as well, who always turns up as like just nondescript grizzly man behind a counter.
Yeah.
And who's so his name's Bill Cobbs. So he plays Estes.
Yes.
He's the like the one that you were supposed to think that's evil because apparently he's doing voodoo. It's like, yeah, come on, guys. Anyway, I just recognise him immediately from Demolition Man. He's the like old cop who knows John Spartan in Demolition Man.
Yeah, and
he's had a great career.
What a career! I mean, he's done a lot more than these two films.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, I always recognise him from... He's in The People Under the Stairs, I think, as well, isn't he?
Yes, he's the grandpa.
Of course. Oh, my God, of course he is.
Yeah. But yeah, he's amazing as well, isn't he? And it's like, it's a weird cast, but like a kind of impressive one, really, given everything.
I was absolutely blown away when Jeffrey Combs showed up.
Yeah. Well,
because again, I've only seen this once and I haven't seen it for ages and ages. I've only seen it, that kind of the one time it came out after I Know What You Did, and it was like, okay, watch this. Obviously at the time didn't think a huge amount of it because I've never owned it, and so all of these people keep popping up all the way through it. Mekhi Phifer, Gretchen from Dawson's Creek, and then fucking Jeffrey Combs, and I'm just like, wait a minute, what? Like horror royalty is this just slightly kind of uptight receptionist.
Yeah.
He's good at smarmy.
So good. Yeah, Jeffrey. Let's talk about him then. I mean, blah blah blah. They win that radio competition. They go to that island. Sure.
Oh, and we must say quickly. There's very conveniently. There's a kill in there's a setup of Ray's friend in the car.
John Hawkes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's John Hawkes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Right. Yes. Yeah.
And again, can we just quickly deal with the fact of how fucking stupid Ray is? If you have gone through what you have gone through, and then you are driving along and you see what is apparently a car accident and a dead man lying in the road. Oh. I mean, you don't even slow, do you? You don't even slow down. I mean, just put your fucking foot down and get out of there. But he's like, no, I must check it out.
And it's this is such a 90s slasher trope as well. And it's like, even he knows it. Like, he goes up to the body, sees that it's not actually a person, and he instantly knows, no, and like turns around to John Hawkes. He knows it's a trap, as we all do at that point. It's like, oh, here we go. Yeah. But, nice bit of White Snake in that scene as well, I appreciated that,
Big fan of the car sing-along.
Yeah, exactly. Love the car sing-along. They win the competition to go to the Bahamas. Did you guys know? Because I was young when I first watched this, and I don't think I ever knew that Rio wasn't the capital of Brazil when I first watched it, So I was happy to go along with that. And I feel like that bit of trivia now is in my head forever because of this film. Probably.
That's what they played on. They knew us teens, the demographic, most of us, thought it was probably
just
Rio.
take it on face value, don't you?
And the reason nowadays that I know Brasilia is the capital is because of this film.
Yeah.
Totally.
I'll never forget that now. Yeah. And I mean, I'm not very good at geography. Never have. I got an A in my GCSEs, but frankly, who knows how? It's not like world. It's all rivers and erosion and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with with country capitals. But I didn't know up until the point that man from Demolition Man goes, it's Brasilia. Like, what are you even talking about? And I was like, oh, right, yeah, okay. But now I'll never forget it.
Because all you have to do to win is tell me the capital of Brazil.
Okay, Brazil, the capital of Brazil.
Come on, Carla. One easy question,
Brazil.
one great getaway.
Rio. Okay, Rio de Janeiro.
Oh, no. Did you say Rio?
No. Yes? Yes.
You just won Magic 96.7.
But what? Why do they need to go to this island for Ben Willis to kill them? What? It's a big convoluted plan, right, Stevie? That Ben Willis and I guess his son want these kids go to the Bahamas so they can kill them?
Yeah, it could go so wrong. And luckily, everything just falls into place so beautifully. Like them just casually inviting Will, who they've known for 10 minutes, to a fucking paradise island with them. That's lucky. It didn't have to do any trickery or convincing of that. It's all very convenient. And then there's this convoluted story that this is where he used to work.
He used to work at the hotel.
Yeah, Ben, the fisherman from America, used to work at the hotel in the Bahamas with his family, who are all buried there. And so for some reason, they need to bring it home. And so it must have cost them as well, the cost of this.
Yeah, and who sent them the tickets? They thought this was coming from an official radio station, right? And stuff. When you think about the logistics of it, it's
the logistics and all the setup, to make sure that they've hijacked the karaoke machine, things like that. They've made sure all of these things are in place and it's off season, so it's probably cheaper that it was off season. But it's all very convenient, but luckily everything goes perfectly.
Everything goes to plan. Perfectly. They've turned Ben Willis, who was just this dude really in the first one, right? Who they happen to run over, and that's why he's trying to kill them. They've turned him into this bit more like this boogeyman almost, haven't they? With this second one, where they're people said that he did this and that on this island. He's become this almost legend on this island all of a sudden, hasn't he? This story of him and his family and everything.
Very strange. Isn't it? Very strange. Can I quickly, we passed it, and I don't want to drag on too much, but the bit in the club with Jennifer Love Hewitt and Will.
Oh, God.
So is she imagining it? Or is fucking Ben Willis in the club in full fisherman outfit, stood on the balcony with not one other person batting an eye?
I think what they're going for here is the Sidney Prescott in Scream 2 doing the Greek tragedy play, and is she really seeing the killer there, or is it all in her head kind of deal?
Okay.
And I'm guessing it's just in her head, right? And that's the other slightly irritating thing about this constant motif of her dreaming stuff, is that you don't really know anything. They can get away with anything, basically, can't they?
Yeah, it's such a cop-out.
Yeah, it's not great, is it?
Stop making me dislike this film, guys!
No, and actually, what I was going to say, in its defence, and I especially found this as a kid, was that I used to find the fisherman character very frightening when I was a child. And I didn't like the way in which
big time.
He kind of almost merged with shadows and stuff. I always remember the bit in with Sarah Michelle Gellar in the shop where he's under a wedding veil and there's all the mannequins, and he's got that Michael Myers way about him, hasn't he, where he's much more slow and he never runs and he seems to appear from nowhere, and you see his shadow and I remember that moment in the nightclub where you see him in the strobe light, being quite scary when I was 11, but
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it doesn't make any sense really.
Talking about the fact that he never runs, he has gone to all of this effort of flying everybody to the Bahamas, digging a grave, hacking a karaoke machine, etc. And then when Julie is literally right in front of him with all those keys trying to save Carla, and he is just moving as fast as a snail on ketamine. Do you know what I mean? It's so ridiculous.
But it works for me, that bit. Yeah, that bit works for me so well. When she's falling through the glass, that slow walk with all the lights.
And actually, I've got to say, it had been so long since I'd seen it, I could not remember if Brandy died. In fact, I thought she did. So I was ready for this to be her death scene, so I was genuinely when does that happen? When does she you just assume that someone like her will get killed in this film, but she doesn't.
Of course,
well, no, so happy when you get the reveal at the end when she's like, oh my god, look, it's Carla, and they have a big hug. I'm so here for that. I love it.
It's great. And I know we're skipping ahead a bit, and we'll talk about some of these other bits, but while we're talking about Ben Willis and how he set all this up, his son then turning out to be Will turning out to be the sort of accomplice. Is it that Will is actually murdering anybody himself, or is he just sort of helping? What do you think, Stevie? What's your theory behind all this?
I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. So for the first half of this rewatch, I forgot that Ben Willis actually was back, because I just remembered that it was Will. is involved. So I spent the first half of this going, oh, Will's doing it all. And then I was getting really angry and going, oh, this is stupid. He can't be in two places at once. He was just killed that person. Now he's there. And so it was about halfway through. I went, and you clearly see that it is Ben Willis. You know, you see his beard and his face quite a few times. And I was like, oh, fuck, I've just remembered that whole stupid bit where he goes, hi, Dad.
Yeah.
Because he's like, didn't you get it, Julie? My name's Will Benson. Ben Son?
Oh, it's so bad. And then he suddenly turns into like, oh, you know, again, it does that kind of final act of Scream, but not very well. Like, now I'm going to go crazy kind of, you know.
Yeah, when he does the DJ voice.
What's your favorite radio station, Julie? Come on, Julie, what's your favorite radio station? 96.7. It's time for you to contemplate the ultimate quickie getaway.
But I don't know if he's doing... I think the deal is Daddy's going to do the killing. And because he even says, you know, you're not a killer, I'm a killer to Julie. Yeah. Daddy does the killing and then Will makes sure that everyone else is occupied so they don't walk in.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the deal. I just want to know how this conversation happened to, hey, son, do you want to kill with me?
Yeah.
Well, he's like, so, William, come and sit with me. I think it's time that we had a talk about you joining the family business. And Will's like, oh, I've waited for this for such a long time. When do we go out on the boat? I'm so excited to be a fisherman.
Yeah.
And then Ben's like, no. It's the other one.
The side gig, you know how I moonlight sometimes.
Yeah, it's the other one. It's where I'm a vicious serial murderer. Sorry, are you into it? You want to come?
Sure. So his name's actually Will Willis, I guess.
Yeah.
Will Willis.
Yeah, it must be William Willis.
Yeah, I guess so.
Will. Fine. I mean, yeah, just pointing that out. And I guess maybe I like to think that maybe Will probably did things like the karaoke machine and stuff. I can't imagine Ben doing that stuff.
No.
You know?
Also, he hasn't checked in, Ben, so he can't be seen, really.
No, and also, Ben was killing John Hawkes while they were in the Bahamas already, right? Or does that happen before they leave?
No, that's before, because they want to make sure that Ray can't come. So that's why he gets put into hospital. So they're like, oh, I guess I have to invite Will instead.
Right, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. But he should be over there setting up.
Yes.
Really.
Yeah, he should be preparing, right? Shall we talk about Jack Black?
Oh.
Jack Black wouldn't like to talk about this, I know, because he's had this removed, right, from his IMDb. He won't talk about it in interviews or anything, apparently.
Because they do address it, like, actually in the universe of the film, don't they? Because I think it's...
Mackay Pfeiffer, Ty does,
Ty does, but also I think... I think his name's Derek. He's like the boat hand. He says something when they first arrive as well. So I think I from my place of extreme white privilege, where I don't need to be forgiving anyone anything when it comes to this sort of thing, I sort of forgive the film because at least they address it within the universe. So we are supposed to be laughing at Jack Black because he's the dickhead, right?
Yes.
Like that's what we're supposed to take away from it.
Yes.
But at the same time, I completely understand why he is like really, really embarrassed about it.
And it's you're right. Like the film knows that he's supposed to be this like white guy trying to be this, whatever. But he is so unfunny and so awkward.
Yeah.
And so
it's not. It's. I think it's the dreadlocks. Just adding that because fair enough. Like. He's doing the sort of the African American sort of street voice. He's doing that sort of accent, but has he got like a slightly Caribbean twist on it?
Yeah.
It's all It's just misjudged. It's problematic, and clearly
cringe,
they all know that,
isn't it? It's just cringe.
It's just so cringe, isn't it? It's so cringe.
I got some back guano. I got the cream jeans. Listen, anything you guys need, Titus got.
No, thank you, but thank you very much.
What's up? Everybody needs something. What about the ladies, the sweet young ladies? Is there anything I can do?
Take her back.
Oh, damn, that's cold, woman. All right. Listen, if you need some weed, I'll get with you later.
I thought I noticed going through that there was, because obviously what they've done is they've taken all of these rich kids and they've put them on an island and set a film in a place where it's essentially staffed by black people. And like, that's fine. That's the industry out there. Nobody's going to say, that that's not like cool or allowed or anything. Mm-hmm. But I think the movie seems to be quite conscious that it could quite easily kind of fall into criticism for the roles that are played by black people in the movie. And I thought I spotted a like motif that was going through where they keep pointing out and like making a point of saying what the black characters' names are, but like within the universe. So at one point, I think it's Julie says, well, why don't we go and speak to the deckhand guy?
And then Jeffrey Combs kind of points out his name.
And Jeffrey Combs goes, oh, Derek. It's not just the boat hand. He's not just the porter. Like, that is Derek and that is Estes. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I thought maybe...
They could still probably have done more, I think, in that regard.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially in the way that they make Estes the sort of like mystical voodoo guy, and that's sort of all he does, like, right? And
God damn it, Tyrell, I am not going crazy. He was in there.
Oh, yeah? Then where's he now, Julie? Huh? Where's the dead guy?
Julie, think about it, okay? I mean, what did you actually see?
I saw the dockhand guy hanging by his neck in there.
All right, look. In the morning, we'll talk to Derek, the dockhand guy, and we'll put this whole thing to rest.
A bit harsh that Ben Willis, basically brings these... Basically, the only person he really wants to kill is Julie, right? Like, his real vendetta is against Julie. He brings her to this island and kills everybody else on this island before killing Julie. It's like, these poor fuckers that have got the off-season hotel shift.
And, and when... Is it literally that day other people have checked out? Because the moment where the chambermaid, what are they called? Chambermaid, housekeeping.
Housekeeping, yeah.
Yeah, the housekeeping lady. When she comes out of one room, she's got all the dirty sheets, and then another. But when it's a great shot when she's knocking on the door and then realises there's blood on her hand. When she goes back in and pulls out the sheets, they are sodden. And I was like, when you took these off the bed, how did you not notice 100%. That they are absolutely dripping in blood? And also, I thought nobody else was in the hotel because she's not knocking on their doors. She's knocking on 203 and 204, which aren't their honeymoon suites. So I'm like, who's on these rooms?
Good point. It's a very good point. Also, why did Jeffrey Combs react to their rooms? Why did he go, oh, you're in rooms 203 and 204?
I wondered that.
And they're like, why?
Because it's honeymoon suite.
Is that all? Like, it almost feels like more like they're being like, they're the haunted, they're the rooms where something bad happens.
That's what it felt like to me, Mike. I was like, oh no, what's going to come out of this?
Or is it because they've got the pervy glass ceilings? Is it because of those rooms? I don't know.
Oh, maybe. But it might have been where the Ben Willis shit went down when he worked there.
Yeah, Ben and his family lived there maybe or something. Or they lived above... They lived above, because there's that attic where you could look down on those two rooms as well, or something. I don't know.
Yeah, something. I know what you mean, though. There was definitely something in it.
Yeah, it was pointed, wasn't it?
You mentioned this at the beginning, Stevie, but always love a moment in this franchise where Jennifer Love Hewitt holds her arms stretched outwards to the side, looks up at the sky, and yells at Ben Willis, who is nowhere near in that vicinity as well. Incredible.
Yeah, and we get a pan out.
Yeah,
absolute joy. That's sort of like... the Shawshank Redemption shot.
Yeah. In fact, she does a lot of it in general. Have you noticed that a lot of this film, she runs around like this? Like, he's coming for us, he's coming. Like, really, like, always her arms outstretched.
Her arms out, always just screaming into the ether.
Screaming. Her jaw kind of goes out. She actually gets angry. And she's got one button done up on her shirt, on her white shirt, that's kind of flowing open. It's just brilliant. Dear. It's just brilliant.
I'm not going to die on this island. Do you hear me? If you want me back, come and get me. I'm right here. But my grave stays empty.
Julie, this is crazy, all right?
And the gratuitous shot that just pans down her body very slowly when she's getting ready for the
sunbed.
Sunbed. Oh, God.
Here's the thing as well. The sunbed, like...
Why didn't they turn it off when they came in? Why did they have to smash it open to save her? Why didn't they click the switch?
All of those things. Also, a thin, tiny bit of plastic that was locked, that was keeping that door shut as well. Just get some scissors or something, even if you can't switch it off. This was a bit of a thing around this era as well, wasn't it? Because I think the third Urban Legend movie.
That's right. The girls in there.
And then, of course, the
one.
third Final Destination movie.
Destination,
as well. But this movie might have been the earliest of those to have a
Final Destination was the one I was thinking. What was the first one you said?
Urban Legends Bloody Mary.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Directed by Mary Lambert, and that.
I have seen that. That's the second one.
No, the third.
Final Cut is the second one. You have seen it, Becky, because I remember you texting the group.
It's the other way round.
Recently.
We've got to cover those at some point.
It's the other way round, surely.
No,
Bloody
it's
Mary's,
not.
which is the one that's got Kate Mara in it.
Bloody Mary, that's the third one.
Oh,
well, in that case, I've seen the third one and I haven't seen the second one. I thought because it was called Final Cut, it was the third one.
Oh, come on. Final Chapters, number 4 with Friday the 13th.
No, it's because the second one is all set around the making of a film, so they call it Final Cut.
Fuck's sake.
It's actually quite good.
Yeah, it's quite fun.
And it's not a Parker, thank God, which is the most stupid mask.
It's a fencing mask.
Yeah, it's a fencing mask. Yeah. It's quite good. Anyway, we always go
off on a tangent. We'll have to cover those films one day. But that third one, not very good, but it's got a sunbed scene in it where somebody dies on a sunbed, hasn't it?
That's right.
Anyway, but yeah, the gratuity, I couldn't believe it, the way in which the camera just like scans down her body. Like, it's not even a subtle male gaze.
In any way. No subtle male gaze.
What the fuck?
There's no sort of reading between the lines of this. It's just like, right, don't move too much, babes, because we've got to...
everything for a moment. Yeah. It's really weird, wasn't it?
It was upsetting, to be honest.
Yeah, really strange. And like you said, Stevie, why did they feel they had to smash the whole machine apart while she's in it in order to just get her out of there and save her?
Unplug it.
You know, she would have been fine in there for just a moment while they'd worked something out that wasn't necessarily smashing it to pieces while she's in it as well. It's like, what?
Yeah, also, it's been 3 minutes. She's not cooking yet.
No, I know he turned it up, but come on.
Yeah. It doesn't work like that.
The other one it did remind me of, actually, was... in Valentine, the hot tub one.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Denise Richards.
Denise Richards in the hot tub. Because again, it's like the heat thing and her sort of like being trapped under the glass. Yeah, quite a rash of these spa-based deaths.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and of course, Death Spa.
There you go.
Yeah. I haven't seen Death Spa.
That'll be it.
That sounds fun, though.
Yeah, and then what else can we mention? I mean, there were quite a lot of kind of kills. None of them are... Well, some of them are more interesting than others, but a lot of them are just like a quick hook to the chest or hook to the throat, aren't they, really?
Yeah, but what I always like is it's the drag afterwards that I really love. So like a hook might go through someone's chin... Fine, they're dead, but then it's just lifting them up by a hook in the chin and dragging them off. It's just horrible.
It's good,
that's such a good point, because the one with Ty, after he does his "I'm tired, hungry, and horny" thing, because that like lifts him up off his feet, doesn't it, and like back up. It comes from above, like that is
good.
Brutal.
And actually, I did really like the moment that is slightly lifted from the haunting, where they go down into the bomb shelter. And Brandy's like, hold my hand, or somebody says, hold my hand. And Brandy says, I am holding your hand. And then, all the bodies being stashed down there and everything.
I love that too. I loved the haunting thing.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't somebody watching Night of the Demon at some point?
Yeah, Night of the Demon.
Yeah, and there's a mention of Freddy and Jason in this as well.
Yes, there's
quite a lot of little horror nods, actually, in this film, isn't there?
Yeah, which we always love.
We always love that.
Makes me feel smart.
That's right. Do we ever see Jeffrey Combs die, or is it just that we discover his body?
You just discover him.
Just the body.
That's a bit of a shame, because he's got like a big old machete in the head or something, hasn't he? He's got something in his head.
Yeah. I think that's it. I really, really enjoy it. The only thing I do just want to question and talk about, when Brandy is washing her trainers in the beginning, and she's tumble drying them, and she opens it, and they perfectly shoot out, and they're both like facing right up, exactly as you would take them out of a shoebox, and goes, I love it when they do that.
I love it when they do that.
What's happening there? Who's who's on the other side of that? And how are they doing it? I don't understand. And also, you think it's going to be a callback moment because they set it up. So when she does find the housekeeping lady, her head should shoot
Yes, it should.
into
But it
her
doesn't.
hands. But it doesn't.
It's so true. It's so true. What a missed opportunity. Or maybe they had to cut it for whatever reason. But I feel like that's what they would have planned. Yeah.
That's a good point. But also, who has ever opened a tumble dryer and their trainers have just been spat out perfectly into their hands? Ever?
No.
Very strange.
No.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Stevie, because I was baffled.
That's why it has to be that originally the head comes out and it lands. So they were like, let's just add something earlier on so that it kind of makes a bit more sense.
It's true. Yeah. And as it turns out, it makes no sense now whatsoever.
No.
You know.
Also, I now feel bad because I don't know housekeeping lady's name. I know Derek and Esther's.
Yeah,
But-
I don't
but
know.
why-
That's the only... She doesn't even speak, does she? That's the only time we see her.
I don't think we find
Well,
her.
I now want the movie about her, please, because I feel like I don't know her story.
It's true.
Don't even know her name.
It's true.
No, true.
We get our little final showdown between Julie and Ben. It's never that interesting. I always find the final acts of these films not great.
No.
You know, she's doing her Sidney Prescott, just fucking die, and shooting him like 100 times, you know, to make sure he's dead. And then how do you guys interpret the final scene? Is that another dream? Does Julie
for fuck's
die?
sake.
You know, where he's under the bed when she's, you know, in her big rich house with Ray and married, essentially, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, what do we think the time... Did they tell us the time scale?
It's probably the
when
next
is?
summer,
No.
isn't it? Let's be honest. It's probably...
That's the thing, yeah.
Because
So
he's proposed, isn't he? Because she's wearing the ring.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know: did he go back to the man in the pawn shop and swap the gun back for the ring?
Oh, yeah.
Or
That was
is
an
a new-
easily acquired gun, wasn't it?
Very well,
America.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't question that for a moment. I just assumed that's exactly how it works.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's obviously proposed, but is it a new ring? Don't know. I don't know. I mean, is there a third one?
There is a third one, but it's not the
it's-
same cast. It's a new story.
Yeah.
So that's the last we see of them, I think, right? And
Well, then I hope they're dead.
yeah.
It can't be real. I mean, it's the way you see him under the bed, his legs would be sticking out the other end. So the fact that neither of them has spotted it before this
Yeah, but
moment...
they're both
it's
really
ridiculous.
dumb. They're both so dumb.
Hey, honey, did you leave your fisherman's legs on the floor?
I'm always picking up after you and your fisherman's legs.
Imagine how boring those two would be to go around to their house for dinner. Like, what do those two talk about,
my
even,
gosh.
do you think? Like,
That's what Class A drugs are for.
yeah,
Those are the
for
evenings.
dinner at
Those are the
Julie and
evenings you
Ray's.
need 'em, yeah.
We've got some fresh fish.
We're going to pick up, right?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, it is. I think you know there's a line as we go into that scene where she comes upstairs and she goes, "Ray, I nearly fell asleep on the sofa just then." So is that actually a dream on the sofa?
Is she under?
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's easy to be harsh on this film. Because it is, because you can pick it to death. But I did, like I said at the beginning, I did actually have a lot of fun with this film. I do think it's better than the first one. And I think it's better than some of the other 90s / early noughties slashers. Like, I like it more than Valentine, for example, because it feels like a proper slasher to me. Becky is shaking her head in disbelief. Don't agree?
Don't bloody agree. Better than Valentine. Fuck off.
I think it's just got a special place in my heart. As I said, it was the first DVD I had, so I watched it a lot and had the extras, which was all new and fandangled to me. And so yeah, I have this affinity with it, and it makes me happy. It's one of those slashes that you know, I don't watch it to in any way get scared or think anything's really cool or clever. It just makes me happy, and it just makes me go, oh, this is so much fun.
Is it a comfort film for you, Stevie? Do you put it on when you're feeling a bit poorly?
I haven't actually seen it for a while, but it's rewatching it, I was like, I could watch this again and again, this film.
And listen to that soundtrack. How do I know what's real? So good. Oh, so there you go. Guys, this was so much fun. What a joy to talk about these two summer classics. I'm going to go and have a cold shower now, I think, because I'm sweating.
I switched T-shirts halfway through this recording, and now I'm going to go and have a shower, my second shower of the day, and put on, again, fresh new clothes. It's disgusting.
Good plan. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Stevie, let us know where people can find you, other than you're on my Patreon every week at the moment. We'll be back talking Hellraiser soon. But other than that, let us know where we can find you and your podcast.
You can find my season 2 of my podcast Brain Rot starts on the 2nd of August, and I've got Elijah Wood as my first guest, which is very exciting. Woo! So you can find that wherever you find all your podcasts.
Love it. And Becky, thank you so much for joining me. Tell us where people can find you and your stuff out there online.
Thank you for having me again, and this has been the most fun. You can find me at Twitter, at BunnyDark. I post about all the stuff that I'm doing over there, so that's probably the best place. Our podcast, Don't Point That Horror at Me, that I do with my best friend Jill Nolan. And if you've been listening to Evolution of Horror a lot recently, you'll have heard us popping up doing our Fear Street series. So we've got our own new episode coming out in September about the classic Teacher's Pet. So very excited for that. Stevie's excited.
I'm excited.
It's a good one. And I've got a Patreon. So patreon.com/BunnyDark. So if you want to support me in any of my podcasting or writing adventures, you can do so over there.
Amazing. And there we go. That was our Summer Slasher special from last year. Really hope you enjoyed listening to that. And don't forget, if you want to hear more similarly stupid discussions about stupid 80s slashers, then you can check out many more of those in the EOH Patreon archive. You just need to sign up to our Patreon at a $5 level to get access to any of those episodes. Patreon.com/Evolution of Horror. There are also plenty more similar episodes on Stevie's Brain Rot Patreon and a brand new exclusive birthday slasher special on Becky's Patreon. That's patreon.com/BunnyDark. Thank you so much for listening, and join us again next week where regular service will resume right here on the Evolution of Horror.